So the Las Vegas Raiders have officially begun the fully padded portion of training camp. They had 5 non-padded practices, and now the pads are fully on, and they're going full speed at this point, and I'm very excited to break down some of the things that we're hearing. There's some things that will be different from what we've heard in the past, but some things will carry over, right? Like Darian Porter, for example, has, looked good, and I want to kind of see how he looks as we kind of go forward, but there are a ton of really good updates that are coming out. So I'm excited to get into this, man. We'll start right away. You have a update coming out with the offensive lineman here. Full pads, offensive lineman. Of course, it is just drills that they're doing at this point. But this has me excited as hell, man. Just watching these guys get out there and kind of hit one another. Watching these guys kind of get physical. Full pads. You can kind of see the movement of some of these guys. It has me excited, man. I'm really, really excited to see what the Raiders can kind of do this season. So you'll see right here, Dylan Parham, left-handed in the ground, right? So he's essentially playing the left guard position. Next to him is going to be Jordan Meredith playing the center position. You'll see they're going to essentially double team, and then they're basically going to climb up. They're going to essentially read the defensive lineman. They're going to climb up to the linebacker. In this instance, Dylan Parham's going to just block this guy outwards. The center is going to go up to the linebacker. To me, this looks like some sort of wide zone concept. So again, just a really good job reading. Dylan Parham does a nice job with the movement. And then up next, you're going to see Will Putnam, the second-year player, as well as Caleb Rogers, the rookie guard, who I'm hearing a lot of really good things about at this point. We'll see how he kind of continues to develop as time kind of goes on. Truth be told, the very first preseason game could not come soon enough, man, because I really, really want to watch some of these younger guys. Let's go ahead and just go forward. We have some other videos that are coming out. We have some actual training camp updates, right? Like opinions, those type of things from some of these reporters. This video is kind of going viral right here. You got Tyree Wilson basically throwing Charles Snowden. Now, Charles Snowden's a pretty damn big human being himself. And Tyree Wilson, man, with the aggressive tendencies. This doesn't mean a whole lot because Tyree Wilson's always been strong, right? But, I love seeing this coming out. I love seeing Tyree Wilson getting physical and pancaking a guy. And I hope this right here translates. I hope this guy gets nastier. I hope he gets more physical. And remember, keep in mind, for him to take a guy down during practice, I hope, something mentally has clicked with this guy. And this guy wants to be a great football player. And he goes out there and actually proves it and really shows it. Again, not a whole lot, right, given in this camp. Or it is still he's still technically holding. He's still holding like a little padded thing right there. And, it is what it is. But still, I hope from a mental standpoint, Tyree Wilson takes that next step this season. Here's another one coming out here. Just a quick little update. Jackson Powers-Johnson is back starting at center for the Raiders today. If you guys remember, literally over the last 4 or 5 practices, Powers-Johnson and Meredith have been swapping back and forth. And I think the report was that Meredith started the last 2 practices at center. And some people are like, is it possible that Jordan Meredith is going to be the starting center for the Raiders to kind of go forward? Right. And I would be shocked if Jackson Powers-Johnson does not start. I think he's our best offensive lineman. I think he's one of the best centers in all of football. And I thought it was more so just trying to get Jordan Meredith right. Maybe see if he's better than even a guy like Will Putnam, who could be our 3rd string center this season. And, also, what does Putnam have? Is he good enough to be a center? Is Meredith good enough to be a 1st string center if that time kind of comes around, right? So I didn't think Meredith would ever actually start over Jackson Powers-Johnson, but some people actually did start to say that a little bit. They were saying that there's a chance that Jackson Powers-Johnson doesn't start. Again, which is kind of crazy to me, but he was back at center today for the Raiders. But it is an interesting thing to note. We'll keep an eye on it as we go forward. Do they swap at any point as we go forward? Does Jackson Powers-Johnson go back to running with the number 2 unit? And then does Jordan Meredith get the first team snaps again at some point? We'll see, right? We'll see over the next couple of days. Another guy, as I just stated, Caleb Rogers apparently has looked good. Jesse Merrick describes it as this. He says, rookie guard Caleb Rogers looked good in the reps I caught during one-on-ones. Showed a good anchor and held his own, standing some guys up. Now, this is one-on-one reps. This is not like being out there live and going up against guys and that type of stuff. But the fact that Caleb Rogers at least stood out to Jesse Merrick, Rogers is also a guy that stood out to someone that I spoke to, that's at camp. Now, someone actually asked me this yesterday, Sanjit, when are you going to get to camp, right? When are you going to get out there, and when are you going to watch camp, and then tell us kind of what you're seeing? At this point, I would not be able to do that. I have young kids. It'd be really, really hard to get out there and then stay out there for like, 2 weeks or whatever to get to camp. But at some point over the next couple of years, as my kids kind of grow up, I definitely do plan to get out there for Raiders camp. Not that I don't think Jesse Merrick, understands football and can evaluate football, but, sometimes reading reports from other people, it doesn't always translate. And it's definitely not my opinion of guys, right? This is just some of the updates that some of these reporters are putting out there. Caleb Rogers looked good to Jesse Merrick. He also looked good to the guy that I speak to. Now, I'll also state this. The guy that I speak to, I trust a lot more than I would any of these guys that I don't really know, right? But I do like the fact that Caleb Rogers looked good in reps during one-on-ones. I want to see Caleb Rogers take first-team snaps. And I know that's not going to happen at this point because he's not a veteran. And putting a rookie out there is not the smartest thing, especially on the offensive line. Unless the guy's a first-round pick, it's hard to say we're going to put this guy out there. That, too, we have guys that have played, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the NFL. You don't want to put a rookie out there ahead of those guys. And I think at this point, the Raiders not putting Caleb Rogers with the ones is smart. But I want to see him run with the ones at some point because I think there's a ton of potential with Caleb Rogers. And let's be honest, Dylan Parham has not blown us away at any point. We haven't seen Dylan Parham out there and said, hey, this guy's like irreplaceable, right? Like we've seen Parham. Sometimes he struggles. Sometimes he's inconsistent. Sometimes he's unable to stay healthy. And I think for the Raiders, we need to look forward to the future at some point as well, right? And I want to see Caleb Rogers take those snaps. Obviously, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, they see this guy every single day. I'm sure if they think he'd be ready to take over at any point, I am positive they will throw him out there at some point. Now, as we're still kind of talking about the offensive lineman, I did ask the guy that I speak to focus in on the offensive lineman, and he told me he thinks Kolton Miller is going to become like a top 5 or 7 tackle this year. He said and this guy's been there for a couple of years now. He said he's never seen Kolton Miller in the type of shape he's in, the confidence, like the leadership and just the way he is out there. He's never been like that he's essentially out there, right? He thinks Kolton Miller's going to have a really, really, really good year for the Raiders this year. And he kind of needs it, right? Because he wants the contract extension. We know that there's a good chance the Raiders will not extend him until he plays an entire year, maybe even until after the year, or maybe at some point in the middle of this season. If he wants an extension, he has to prove it. And I think he was really, really motivated to come into this season, and it kind of proved that as well. And apparently he's looked really, really, really good. So I'm excited to watch him this season as well. I think our offensive line will be a lot better this season. Guy told me he thinks the O-line this year is way better than the last year's offensive line, even the unit before that season, right? Our O-line over the last 2 years has been really, 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 really bad, right? Like, I would say bottom 5 offensive line, right? That was what we've kind of had over the last 2 seasons. This season, I think we can be a top, 15, 20 unit. And if guys really develop, right, if DJ Glaze becomes the franchise guy, if Caleb Rogers develops and he ends up being a starting caliber guy, we could be a top, 10 to 12 unit at that point, right? So the investments have been made by the Raiders. We'll see what guys kind of develop into. Here's another video that's coming out. Raiders rookie running back Ashton Jeanty showing off his blocking skills with great leverage here in the drills. So you're going to get Ashton Jeanty to work on some pass blocking drills. That's a pretty nice job right there by Jeanty. Yeah, it seems like they're kind of just warming up. They're not really going like full speed. I don't know. It's hard to kind of tell. It seems like they're just kind of warming up. But I'm excited, man. Look at Ashton Jeanty. He looks good out there, right? There are some reports with Ashton Jeanty that the guy looks really, really, really good. As he was doing some of his, I forgot who it was. It was a beat reporter that put it out there. They were saying, man, like, up to this point, we've only watched Ashton Jeanty in, without full pads on. That too, you're not tackling, you're not bringing people down. yeah, the offensive linemen are like running through the drills at this point, but like as a running back, if you're going to pick up 10 yards or 30 yards, like it's hard to kind of tell, right? Like what you're actually going to be able to pick up because no one's bringing anyone down. And I think as we kind of go forward, we're going to start to see Ashton jeanty more and more, and we're going to start to feel like what this run game is going to look like this season. And again, I think for the Raiders, right, when you really think about it, we're going to find out if we're going to have like a top 10 unit with the running back, the offensive line. We're going to find that out over the next week as we get into preseason. We're going to start to find that out. And the reporter said that Ashton jeanty has shown some flashes of greatness, right? And I hope he actually develops into that, man. I really, really do hope that. The Raiders need a running back like Ashton jeanty, a guy that on any given play can just take a distance. Jesse Merrick put out another tweet. He said, we've talked a lot about Jakobi Meyers and Dont'e Thornton, but so far, Tre Tucker has stolen the show on the first day of pads among the wide receivers. That's a really, really good sign to kind of hear. Before OTAs, before minicamp, before, the training camp essentially started, Tre Tucker was a guy where I was like, dude, do we have a real role for Tre Tucker? Given that Dont'e Thornton kind of plays the same exact role as Tre Tucker, but Chip Kelly has swapped those guys, and I think Tre Tucker will still have a lot of those influence type of routes, but I think Thornton will as well, so you can kind of split those guys with that. But Tre Tucker is not only taking that next step and develop, but like he's showing some real flashes for the Raiders. And there's multiple people that have talked about Tre Tucker up to this point. Right? Multiple people have talked about how he's kind of looked as a wide receiver. And I hope that's not an indication that like our cornerbacks aren't good. I don't think that's what it is, right? But I love the fact that Tre Tucker's kind of flashing. Geno Smith also hit Dont'e Thornton on a 65-yard touchdown. Some people said it was a 70-yard touchdown. I don't really know, but we do know that Dont'e Thornton essentially ran past rookie cornerback Darian Porter, and Geno Smith hit him in stride, and he scored a touchdown. You know what this play kind of makes me feel like with the Raiders this season is there's going to be drives where the Raiders go out there, and we haven't had this happen for like 4 or 5 years. Like, it happened a couple times with Derek Carr and Devontae, but like it was still rare for it to happen. We're going to have drives where like, the defense gets to stop, the Raiders get on the field, and first play is going to be a touchdown. Or the second play is going to be a touchdown. We're going to pick up 50 yards just like that, right? And we're going to be in field goal range just like that. And I say that because we're seeing this in camp where Dont'e Thornton's catching these deep touchdown passes. Tre Tucker yesterday caught 2 touchdown passes. I think this trend right here is going to continue to happen, and I think the Raiders are going to have these chunk plays. And Chip Kelly knows what he's doing, so we'll have shot plays designed. And I think Geno Smith, being the type of deep passer that he is, I think the Raiders are going to have so much success through the air, and we're going to have a lot of big plays this season. I think our offense is going to be the best it's been over the past like 4 or 5 years. This year, we have a great coordinator. We have a quarterback that I think we put it together, and we have the weapons. Brock Bowers, best tight end in the NFL. Ashton jeanty should be a top 5 running back. Thornton apparently is the next big thing potentially, right? I'm excited as hell for this season, and I can't continue to, I continue to say that, but I'm really, really excited to just see it as it kind of happens. Yesterday, Tommy Eichenberg played some reps with the ones, and he did that once again today. So Ryan McFadden says Raiders linebacker Tommy Eichenberg played some reps with the ones during team period. So yesterday, Tommy Eichenberg took some first team snaps, and he did that once again today. And again, really, really, really like hearing that Tommy Eichenberg is getting that opportunity. We have some young linebackers. Tommy Eichenberg's young. Cody Lindenberg is young. Amari Gaynor is young. And I think we have like 1 or 2 other guys that are on the younger side. And then we have like 4 guys that are veterans, right? Jalen Smith, Jermaine Pratt. Jamal Adams is technically a linebacker. He's a veteran. Devin White, Landon Roberts. We have all these different veterans, which is great, but that's great for the short term. That's great, if the guys can stay healthy. But what we need some of the younger guys to step up. We need Tommy Eichenberg to step up. We need Amari Gaynor or Cody Lindenberg. And it doesn't have to be all 3. We just need one guy to prove himself. that I could be a linebacker that can take first team snaps, that can start on a consistent basis. I can get off blocks and I can, essentially find success. Because the Raiders haven't really had that at the linebacker position from guys that are on the younger side, right? Robert Spillane was, although he was a good linebacker, he was never really like the long-term future. Divine Diablo was good in moments, but he was never healthy, so you had to kind of write that off as well. And Amari Gainer showed some potential last year, but, he hasn't shown that same this year. At least he hasn't in camp so far through this point. The only things we've heard with Amari Gainer is that he looks really, really good, right? But Tommy Eichenberg taking those first-team snaps is a really, really good thing for the Raiders. I hope something here sticks. I hope he ends up being a good football player. He's always shown flashes. He struggled with certain things, but I hope he's developed and kind of taken that next step. And we're going to see how he looks like as we kind of go forward. Another update with the linebackers. Mike Dixon sees the Raiders linebacker Devin White with 2 good back-to-back plays and gets another stop on 3rd down. Really, really, really like hearing that. Devin White, I think, will be one of the Raiders starting linebackers. If I'm a betting man, I think it's going to be some combination of Jermaine Pratt, Jamal Adams, and Devin White. The other veterans, right? I know Landon Roberts was signed to a contract, but he was signed before Jermaine Pratt, before Jamal Adams. I don't really know what type of role he'll have with the Raiders as well. I know he'll have a role, but I find it hard to believe that Landon Roberts is going to be better than Jermaine Pratt, better than Devin White, better than Jamal Adams. But, I think our linebacking group's going to end up being really, really good this season. And, I think considering the scheme, some of the players, the veterans, I really do think the Raiders are going to find success this season. I think we're going to force turnovers from some of these players. We're going to get after the quarterback with our defensive line. And I know Christian Wilkins, the entire situation happened, and it's still kind of weird with what's coming out now. But I still think our defensive line has talented players, right? We have Malcolm, we have Maxx, we have Adam Butler, and then we have Tyree Wilson as well. What if Tyree Wilson becomes what a 7th overall pick should be, right? So I think the Raiders will still end up having success on defense, on offense. And we have a great coaching staff as well. And I think that really makes the biggest difference. I would like to hear about Devin White making some back-to-back plays. Love to hear about Tommy Eichenberg as well. A lot of different guys are making some plays, right? Another guy that made a play today was Decamerion Richardson, who got an interception on Geno Smith. Deshaun Reed describes this. He's saying, during the red zone drills, Geno Smith targeted Trey Tucker in the back of the end zone. He was a little late, which opened up a window for Decamerion Richardson to jump the route and pick him off. Another reporter that was at camp also made a comment saying Geno Smith sometimes is a little slow to process and get the ball out. In this instance, it obviously led to an interception. And I do hope it's Geno Smith getting comfortable with Chip Kelly's offense. I hope it's Geno Smith just kind of getting things right, getting familiar with some of these guys. And I hope this isn't something that leads to Geno Smith struggling. I'll be honest with you guys. Geno Smith is on the slower side when it comes to processing. That's a fact. You can watch his tape. He's on the slower side. But those players can still have success. It just depends on the offensive coordinator designing good plays and simple concepts that are good concepts. Chip Kelly's a good offensive coordinator. And I'm sure at some point Geno Smith's just going to get a little bit more comfortable. But he did throw an interception. And again, someone else described it as Geno Smith was kind of late with the pass. Deshaun describes it, saying he was a little late, which obviously opened it up for Decamerion Richardson to jump the route and pick him off. But I do like still hearing that Decamerion Richardson is flashing a little bit, because we didn't hear a whole lot from Decamerion Richardson early on in the process. But I think it was at some point last week. I think it was the last practice. I think it was Friday maybe, where Decamerion Richardson took some snaps with the first team defense. And on Saturday, when I was told about that, I actually talked about it in the video. And on Sunday, which was yesterday, he made some plays, right? He had like a pass breakup. He made a couple of plays on the football. And today, he had an interception. That's a huge, 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 huge positive for the Raiders. You want to hear that your cornerbacks are making plays. Decamerion Richardson, I believe, has gotten his hands on the football a couple of times in practice. Darren Porter has not yet. And I know Porter's a rookie, so it's going to take him a little bit longer. But I really like hearing that Decamerion Richardson jumped a play. He intercepted a pass. Richardson was a 4th-round pick. He should be a contributor at some point for the Raiders. Another thing to note with Richardson is he still has 3 years left on his contract. Right, the guy is on a rookie contract with 3 years left. The Raiders, if we released him, will have dead cap hits for the next 3 years. So again, I think for us, the best thing that could happen is Richardson ends up being a contributor for the Raiders. Even if he's not a day one starter, if he can rotate in at some point, and if he can continue to develop, that's going to be the best possible thing that the Raiders can do this season. A couple other updates that are coming out. Levi Edwards says for a second straight day, Aiden O'Connell finds Jack Bech for a touchdown. This one came on a jump ball near the left pylon, heavily contested. A really, really good update that you want to hear. Aiden O'Connell has looked good. Jack Bech is starting to find his groove a little bit as well. Bech is taking second-team snaps, and he's kind of been taking second-team snaps, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he is starting to kind of find his way a little bit, and we'll see how he continues to develop for the Raiders. A couple more updates that are coming out. Nice red zone period from Cam Miller. Went through his progressions and was using his eyes well. Cam Miller is another guy that I'm excited to watch this season, or at least during the preseason. I hope, Aiden O'Connell's going to, if he doesn't start the game in the preseason, right, like if Geno Smith sits, Aiden O'Connell will start, but like Cam Miller is going to play a lot of snaps for the Raiders this season. And I'm really excited to watch that. And I wonder if Tommy Malak gets any quarterback snaps. Now, I don't think he plays quarterback at all for the Raiders, but like, what if he does play a little bit of quarterback for us? And what if we get to see him out there for an entire quarter? I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's more likely Cam Miller plays like an entire half. And I think that'd be the smart thing to do. Never made sense to me why teams will get like a 4th quarterback. And then essentially with that 4th quarterback, they'll basically have that guy play in the preseason only to release him. That doesn't make sense to me. Develop your young quarterback. If you have a rookie, even if you have a guy like Aiden O'Connell, develop him. Let him play, right? Obviously, Aiden's a little bit different at this point in his career, but like with Cam Miller, let the guy play an entire game. That's what it is, right? He'll be a lot better for it. Now, with that being stated, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. Obviously, it's the very, very first day of fully padded practice. The Raiders will ramp up this part as well, right? Like, they're not going to go full in and start tackling and doing all that stuff right now. But if you guys remember, Pete Carroll did tell us like 2 or 3 weeks ago that he wants to make this training camp one of the hardest training camps these players have ever essentially played in, right? He wanted that to be the tone. And if he does want to actually make that the tone within the next couple of days, things are going to really ramp up. So I'm excited to see what ends up happening as we kind of go forward. The first preseason game of the NFL literally is just in 3 days from now. Right? It'll be the Hall of Fame game. The Lions play, and I forget who the other team is. But we'll get that game here in about 3 days, and then the Raiders play in about a week and a half. So I'm excited as hell for that, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.